And item B, the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Garrick to recite the pledge, and the rest of us kind of just follow along. That way we're better synchronized and we don't walk all over each other's speech. So, Garrick, if you'll do the pledge for us, we'll open up the meeting with that. Go ahead.
Sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Ms. Salcho?
Here.
Mr. Lindemann has been connected. Dr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Bahrain?
Here. Item D, approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of May 5th, 2020 of the special meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? Was there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Gomez, I think. Roll call. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez? Mr. Bahrain?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, are you there?
Okay, well, I'm sure he'll join us as soon as he can figure out what happened there. Summary of current events, Ms. Samaniego.
Dr. Ed he's there. Okay, good afternoon, board president, governing board members, staff, and Garrett, and community out there watching. Just a few things. First of all, we want to thank our Douglas Fire Department for the donation of 160 winter jackets that were distributed to DUSD students right before the holiday break. And Chief Lomeli, Assistant Chief Alvarez, Tunomi Galindo, for their nice donation. A lot of our kids received those jackets, and that was a very nice thought. We want to thank them. Another announcement is that our spelling bee winners are the following students. We have our champion is Alamira Montes, who's a 5th grader at Clausen Elementary, and our runner-up, Diego Duarte, a 6th grader at Paul River Middle School. And this year, the Cochise County Spelling Bee will have to be virtual, and that will be taking place on the 13th of February. And what they're going to do is that every winner will be doing it virtually at their school district or in their classroom. And so that'll be organized here and presented and done on February the 13th. As far as what's going on with schools right now, well, our distance learning is continuing. We've been visiting as a leadership team all of our principals during our principal one-on-ones, talking about academic data, talking about what's working, what's not, and celebrations, benchmark assessments. So those conversations are taking place right now. And our Azala testing started. It is in person. Kids are being asked to report to the schools by their grade level. It's a very set schedule that every school building is doing. And what we've seen is Ferris Elementary, for example, had, I think, almost like a 98% attendance rate. And so the kids are coming in, taking their Azala test, and then going home and following all the precautions. And that is exactly what we're going to have to do for AZM too. When we get to that part of testing, is that the kids will have to come to the school. It's going to be a tough project to accomplish, and hopefully hopefully students will show up and take their tests. So that will be the challenge, and that's all I have for now.
Okay, we'll move on to reports. Does Garrick, do you have anything you want to report of interest to the board?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Samaniego, staff, and community members. Last weekend, DHS Student Council attended a virtual state leadership conference. This week, HOSA and Skills USA are finishing their state competition testing. And this week is also Counselors Appreciation Week. So DHS gives a big thank you to our school counselors for all they do. Thank you.
Okay, great. Mr. Soto, Business Office Report.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members. It's my monthly report, cash report that you have in front of you. One thing to note is, again, we still haven't adjusted the budget for the loss of enrollment. That's something that we're planning on doing on our next budget revision, and that's probably going to happen either in March or April. And that's why you see a big amount in the balance. Okay. Besides that, any questions about the report?
No, are you going to get into more detail later, correct? About
Yes,
some of
correct.
the other activities.
Yeah.
Since you're talking about reports, we're always interested in the solvency of all the programs, and how are we doing with all the programs? Is everything looking good as far as the amounts being granted, or are we being cut back? Anything that would be worthy of the board knowing regarding the finances?
The finances, sure. Yeah, we're still waiting on final word for our Title I approval. That's something that Mrs. Trevino and Mrs. Cox are working on right now. Besides that, there's, as everybody probably most likely have heard, is about the CARES monies coming from the federal government. We don't know exactly how much we're going to be awarded this coming year. But it's a significant amount, so it's going to be a lot more than what we received this year. This year, if you remember, we got awarded $1.9 million out of the CARES money. So it seems like it's going to be 2.5 up to probably 2.5 times more what we got awarded this year. But again, that's something that we're still waiting on for confirmation. There's also Proposition 208, which again, the state has also said that it's coming soon, but again, they don't tell us when or how, and that's something that we're going to have to determine in the near future. So those are good things happening for us right now. The only concerning thing, as everybody is aware, is the loss of enrollment. We're still, it's not as bad as it was at the beginning of the school year, but so far we have lost around 215, 220 kids since the beginning of the school year. So that's something that is that's something to consider for next school year, of course, since we're going to start planning and forecasting for next school year, probably in a month. So that's going to be one thing to consider heavily, and that's a reduction in the budget, of course, because of enrollment. 85% of the whole budget is salaries and benefits. So it's going to be challenging on a way that we still need to provide some kind of salary increase because of the increase in minimum wage this past January. This past January, and but that's something that I'm looking into right now, making sure that all of those, again, with the uncertainty of those funds, not knowing how they're going to work, that's something that I don't have to that I don't want to consider for salaries and benefits, of course, because these are one-time monies that we don't want to affect our salary schedules that way. But again, it's going to be a tight year next school year. Hopefully, if the state wants to or continues cutting us that 5%, which you all know it was a big hit. It was a 1.1 million cut this year, so it's probably going to be like the same amount for next school year if that continues. Even if we go into hybrid, that's still considered distance learning, so we're still potentially being cut at 5%. But again, these are things that are in the air right now that we don't know exactly how they're going to work out. But I'm going to keep you informed as I get more information about it. And of course, we're gonna touch the subject of food service later on the agenda, and I'll be more.
Yeah, we'll get to food service. You'll do a lengthy report on that. And
right.
just so that I know you do it when it's possible, But when you talk about the federal money, and there's going to be a lot more, that's good news. But of course, those are restricted funds to people working in those programs. But do you always check the possibility of a shared cost with any of the employees, for example, on taking any of their duties if they overlap into, say, any of the title programs, that you can share a percentage of their salary? I know you do that as much as you can, but I mean, under the circumstances now, if there's any nuance at all of them working in the federal program, that's just a statement, and I know you do that, but that's for informational purposes for the board as well, that the district should always be looking at the possibility of doing that, right?
Yes, that's correct. The only problem, not problem, but the only issue is that remember that all of the grants, I've tried to stay away from putting a lot of salaries on those grants, just because, as we know, that as those funds go away, then people lose their job, kind of thing. So that's why I try to keep everything under the M&O side and the titles that we know for sure that we're going to get. But definitely, if it's a 1 year, a one time, like we've done this past year, that we move some people to those monies to pay them off. But that's yes. In summary, yes, you're right. I mean, I always look into that possibility all the time too.
Okay, and also with the indirect costs from as much as you can take from those programs as well. Right. All right, let's move to 3, Human Resources and Student Enrollment Report. Mrs. Cox.
Good evening, everyone. So in terms of HR, we sent out a preliminary survey to teachers to gather some initial information, just to see who's thinking about coming back, who's thinking about or undecided at this time. And so about 80% of the teachers right now are indicating that they will be returning, and about 20% are either undecided or have stated that they're not returning. So we will be participating in a virtual job fair on February 27th, and then other fairs that job fairs that we will be able to participate in. And we will also be advertising positions on the ADE website for these critical positions that we need. We will also send out a similar survey to our classified staff to gauge the same information and see where our classified staff is at that point. We are hoping that teachers will receive their contracts in April. So that's where we are in terms of teachers at this point. So we're already starting to think about that. We also conducted a COVID vaccination survey just to see how many of the employees are considering getting the vaccination. And of course, at this point, it's not mandatory. People do not have to be vaccinated. So we had approximately about 70% of the staff who answered the survey. At this time, 84% of those who answered said they will be vaccinated. Okay, so that's good news. We know that there is difficulty in getting an appointment to get vaccinated. So 54% of those who answered said that they have been vaccinated. 54% have not been vaccinated. 35 have been, and we have about 11% pending appointments. So they're still looking for appointments in order to get vaccinated. So that was just some information that we wanted to share out. And at this time, our enrollment stands at 3,855 students, which includes 93 of students from the Early Learning Center or preschool.
Mr. Burring, I muted you. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Can you hear me, Alma?
Yes, sir. I can hear you now.
Oh,
I have to
okay.
unmute everybody. That way we don't hear the echo.
Okay, members of the board, do you have any questions regarding especially anything that Mrs. Cox said related to the COVID? Any questions about the enrollment? All right, thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Alma, do you have anybody who wants to address the board?
Yes, sir, I do. Ms. Samaniego has it. She will be reading it. Dr. Gomez has a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Dr. Gomez, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Is that me?
Yes, sir.
I just want to ask the way their enrollment is. What for the
Can you repeat again, Dr. Gomez? We couldn't hear you.
okay? What I'm is what is the plans for the new addition at the high school?
What are, if I understood you correctly, I think he's asking what, with the enrollment, what are the plans for the new addition at the high school? And so if I may say, the building project is still moving forward. It's moving slow because of some SFB holdups and approval of everything. But if you recall, that project was approved based on information of enrollment that, you know, we had submitted. So there is still plan on that project moving forward. So it's going to happen.
Okay, is that, Dr. Gomez, was that your question? Or is he done? Okay, I can see him, but I don't see any movement in his in his picture there. So, and Mr. Lindeman, is he on the line?
Yes, sir. He's on there.
Oh, okay. All right. So, Alma, let's get back to public comments. Do you have any?
Yes, I
Ms.
have.
Samaniego has it.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, DUSD board members, Superintendent Mrs. Samaniego. I am Jesus Chuy Duarte from 2328 East 14th Street. I am a parent to 2 DUSD students, and that includes DHS Student Body President Garrick Duarte and the husband of a DUSD teacher, Mrs. Joni Duarte. This letter is to bring forward my concerns on the schools remaining on a virtual mode for the rest of the school year. I feel that this would be the most detrimental to our students. That is who we here are to serve, our students. It is time to open up our classrooms to return to a regular classroom instruction. There is a new study that was released by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and they state, with masking requirements and student cohorting, transmission risk within schools appeared low, and suggesting that schools might be able to safely open with appropriate mitigation efforts in place. Our students have lost too much this school year already. I have heard many stories, and I'm sure some of you have as well, of students leaving the district for better opportunities. I know there are 2 of our top soccer players now playing soccer and attending school in Tucson at Sunnyside High School. I also know of the deficiencies of virtual learning for my own children. My 6th grader just this week has already had 2 of his teachers be absent, one on Monday and one on Tuesday. Yes, they left a short assignment to be done, but no teaching took place. This has been an ongoing issue all year, and it has been brought to the attention of both the school principal and the superintendent. They did try to address the issue, but it has been of no use. I was told by the principal that it is what we should expect for this type of learning. In a traditional classroom, there would be a substitute teacher with lesson plans to continue the learning, but not so with what we are doing. We need to put the fear aside. We have to learn to live with the virus just like we live with other diseases. Let's put all mitigation on the table and get the students back in the classroom. I would still allow for those that want to keep their children at home, but we need our children in school with the classmates being with children. For our seniors, this is a special important moment. We have to prepare them for succeed in the real world. They have to be out there learning responsibilities that come with living outside of the home. None of what I say comes without careful thought. I am willing to have my children attend in-person school. My wife is also very willing and excited to have children in her classroom. We have our son in Chicago attending school and living in residence halls. So I say, because I believe that the best place for our children is in this classroom. Thank you for your time. Respectfully, Jesus Duarte.
Do you have any others?
No, sir, that's it.
That's it. All right, we thank them for that comment. Item 2, consent agenda items. Approval of the following consent agenda items: payroll and expense vouchers reports 1, 2, and 3. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Is Mr. Lindeman on the line?
Mr. President, I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ramos. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salchow,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Ramos.
I said yes.
Did you ask me?
Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Okay, moving right along. Action items 3A, discussion action on distance learning for the remainder of the school year. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay, this is obviously a topic that has the interest of all of our staff, and I would hope that all of our parents. As you all know, you all made the decision to at least continue online for quarter 3. That leaves 1 quarter left, and that will take us through the end of the year. So the discussion tonight and the decision tonight is whether we will be allowed to start our hybrid plan, which was already approved and presented to you before the start of the school year. The hybrid plan would obviously allow students to be on an A-B schedule, rotation, 2 days of in-person instruction, 3 days of online. And what that does is it will allow us to have some mitigation strategies as far as lower classroom sizes of potentially in some schools no more than 8 to 10, 12 students on any given day that they would report to school. We all believe firmly that school is a place where children need to be, and I'm a proponent of that. I believe that is a place where kids need to be, and I would also agree that our kids have lost a lot. It is not a perfect type of learning, perfect type of teaching. We are very aware of all the issues. When a teacher is absent, for example, we don't have substitute teachers that will come in and just start online teaching at the spur of a phone call, that day at 6 a.m. in the morning. And so that definitely is an issue. So teacher absentee is addressed. Principals are addressing it. But if teachers take a day, they take a day or they take a sick day. And so this year, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of sick leave being taken. So that is affecting, obviously, the teacher interaction, the virtual teaching. We did a survey with our staff, and our reopening of schools task force, which we have 3 committees that meet. We have the elementary group, the middle school group, and the high school group. And within those groups, we have members of every school at least is represented. That committee has made some discussions, and then the ideas that come from that team are taken back to the school site, at every school site, for a quick thought process and a survey. And the conversation around, how does the staff feel? Are we, we're looking at obviously the academic piece, which is the most important aspect of our schooling, of our public education system, taking into consideration how the staff feels, the safety and well-being of our staff and our students. And are we prepared to open up our schools for our students, even in a hybrid fashion? Number one, I do think we're prepared. You know, we've been planning for this. We've had, you know, practice and ordered PPE equipment and sanitize the schools. And so that I think wouldn't be the problem of being able to keep areas cleaned. Everybody would wear masks. We have hand sanitizer. So it would be a matter of putting those things in practice as the adults have already been used to, and teaching kids, right? I believe kids already, students, have had a whole year of establishing even those protocols in their own homes. I would hope so. You know, everybody right now, you can't even go into a store without wearing a mask. So the mask would be a requirement. I think the issue would be in, obviously, when kids are back, you have people. There's more contact. And so the contact and the contact tracing would be more difficult at the secondary level. And what I mean by that is you have kids exchanging classes. And middle school and high school, it's almost impossible, especially high school, it's impossible to keep a cohort together to travel from one period to the next. High school is clearly impossible to do. Middle school, it can still be done in a very creative way, and the middle school group has already addressed that and had a plan for it. You then have the other factor of teachers teaching simultaneously to the online kids, because we will have, if the decision is to allow the students to return to school, then we still have to offer that option to parents to keep their kids at home. So that option wouldn't go away. So a teacher has to teach simultaneously to the kids on their camera, on their computer screen, while teaching the kids that will be coming to school. It's been done before. There's the many schools that did open up, tried this method. For some, it worked. It's very challenging, I will say, for anybody that's been a teacher and knows that this online platform is challenging as it is, and to try to manage both groups, somebody loses. And, you know, is it who gets more attention? Is it the kids that are in person, or is it, you know, at a disadvantage to the online kids? Or will the kids in person have a disadvantage because the teacher will be focusing on the kids at home? So those are some questions that have been discussed and addressed. And while we pondered and came up with different solutions on how it would work, whether we make all online kids go in the morning and all in-person kids come in the afternoon, or online kids on Mondays and Thursdays, and in-person kids on Tuesdays and Fridays. So it's still a change that's going to take place. So whatever happens, if the decision is to go to hybrid, there will be changes made in schedules, and parents will be notified ahead of time, because it's going to create change. And we know that some of us don't deal well with change. It'll be put into practice. And so in conversations with the staff and with the committees, the staff feels at all levels, for example, the high school, the results that came from the survey are 69% of certified staff feel that we should remain online. Classified staff was also surveyed. Out of the 30, only about 30 out of the 30 that answered, only about 30% of the staff answered, and they also said online. Middle school is very gung-ho about allowing kids to return, but they want to do it in a very traditional way. So this is how middle school feels. And, you know, middle school teachers are special, right, Mrs. Salchow? We take one for the team. And so middle school feels that they want kids to be able to come to school 5 days a week. They want a traditional, give it all, or remain online. Because if starting a hybrid program is what we decide today, is what you all decide today, that means we are going to have to shift the virtual teaching days that teachers have that direct contact with kids. Right now, if you recall, we went from 2 days of that direct synchronous teaching time, synchronous learning, to 4 days a week, because we heard from our parents, heard from our teachers, and heard from our students that 2 days a week was not enough. We were losing a lot of instructional time. So if we go back to a hybrid, the middle school group feels, why would we go back to only 2 days a week to allow for that smaller class sizes? Because keeping the 4 days a week of virtual instruction would mean that we would have to take all kids back all at once and not be able to have smaller class sizes. So the middle school group is overwhelmingly saying, if we're able to, and we want to start hybrid, let us bring in all kids the 4 days a week with the option of keeping those that are online and want to stay online. They're troopers. They'll manage the simultaneous teaching if they have to, but they want all kids or let's just stay with online. They feel that probably changing something for 1 quarter and kind of disrupting that process will take some time to start. The other conversations that the middle school group has had, and I think every level, middle school, high school, and elementary, if there was an opportunity to allow some of our students back, maybe we could do a rollout as we've discussed, allow, for example, kinder and first and second to start the first group, like the first couple weeks. And then you would include the next couple weeks, maybe fourth graders. And it would be a small roll into the hybrid so that all students wouldn't be there all at once. We talked about maybe allowing freshmen, allowing the seniors. This is a big moment for seniors in high school to allow to come back. And it wouldn't, you'd have less students on campus. And elementary is very concerned about the fact that if we were to remain online, our kinder kids, for example, have never been in school. If they've never been in preschool before, they've never been in an actual school setting. And yet next year in August, if things are well, and I'm a knock on wood that hopefully we can bring kids back in August, that it would be the very first time, now a kinder being a first grader, that's the first time that those kiddos have ever been in a school. So they're going to have to really adapt. They've never been in school. And here we are a year later and they're first graders. So elementary would feel that it would, benefit to have them, kinder, to give them an opportunity at least for 1 quarter and work on all these rules and practices and mitigation. And we're going to implement all of these protocols because we know that these protocols are not going to go away in August. It's not like masks are going to disappear from our lives. It's not like we're not going to have to wash our hands and sanitize desks frequently. That's not going away. So the staff overwhelmingly from these committees says, we're going to spend a lot of, if we stay online, we know that the start of next school year is going to be, normally teachers do about a 1 week or 2 weeks of introduction, classroom rules and procedures, and let's practice what I expect in my classroom. That's going to be probably an extended amount of time putting these things in practice, putting these protocols in place because kids haven't had it for a year and a half. However, the elementary, with all of that being said, the elementary survey demonstrated that 59.9% of the staff wants to continue online. 40.1% wants to have that in-person option with the online option as well. So elementary, 59.9% continue online. Middle school has indicated 100%. Let us have our kids all or nothing, or let's just stay online. And the high school, 69% of the staff would like to stay online. Obviously, in this difficult time, many schools have had to put education, not second, but right now, what can we do to educate our kids during this pandemic year? And obviously, this is a result of what many schools are able to do, just stay online. Many schools in Cochise County, they're a lot smaller. They're a different community. They don't have the same issues as we do. They've opened up their schools. They've had to close them down for a few weeks because of either potential, staff outbreaks, student outbreaks. And yes, we know that the young adults or young children are not, the kids, the population that's really in danger of getting very sick. But we know that these kids do go home. They go home to grandma and grandpa. They go home to mom and dad, siblings. And so there is that traveling from school to home. And we all are in agreement that that's a concern. I do think that the parents that want to keep their kids at home will do so. They will have that option. And I think many of our parents might do that. The kids that are able to go to the learning spaces are already. And we have seen right around November, December, when we saw a rise in cases in Douglas and even within DUSD, we saw the learning spaces numbers drop. But now after the break and a couple weeks into the semester, we've seen the learning spaces numbers rise up again. And so we know that parents are needing to send their kids to a safe learning area where they're being supervised, given some support. They're not with teachers. Some teachers are pulling kids into their classrooms for about half an hour. It's not direct instruction, but at least that contact with the students. And for the classrooms that I've seen teachers pull students in, I will tell you, it is such a warm feeling to see kids in teachers' classrooms, and those teachers that are able to do that or are willing to do that. It also brings them joy to their teaching, having that contact. So kids, I know a lot of kids want to come back. I have a high school child who is asking me every day, Mom, are we going to go back to school? But we have to be realistic, and we have to understand that we are dealing with something that is beyond our control. And I'm very aware of that. It's a very, very difficult situation. And it is our reality. And that's some of the information I have for you. I don't know if you have any questions at this point. Garrick is a high school student. I know he's advocated for in-person instruction. He's a senior. He's wondering about, graduation and his, senior fun day and all of these activities that for seniors are important, and we understand that. Are we ready to open up? And that's the question that needs to be discussed.
Mr. Burbain, can you please unmute yourself?
Okay, is that better?
Yes, sir. And Mr. Ramos has a question also.
Okay, let me just make this comment. That was a very thorough commentary that the superintendent made, and I know that all her comments are based as a conglomerate of a lot of things, the meetings with administrative staff, your administrative team, teachers, surveys, etc. But I think what this board needs to know, because of the representation of the community, is you have it listed as discussion action on distant learning for the remainder of the school year. And so the first question is, did you want a decision from the board based on a recommendation you're going to make based on all the information you have about what to do for the rest of the year? Or are you going to continue doing what you're doing now and want to come back to the board at a later date? We need to clarify that first.
I think the reason I brought it to the board for a decision tonight is because the quarter 3 ends right before the first week of March. And so we're already in February. If a decision needs to be made so that we can prepare for the in-person, we need more time. We can't wait. I can't wait to bring this back to you at a later date. I need a decision today.
The situation, of course, is that we keep postponing and keep putting decisions off into the future, and before you know it, school's over.
Yeah.
So let me, and again, you're the professional. You're dealing with all your staff. They're all professionals, administrators, all the way up and down. And what I think at the end of this conversation we need to know is what your recommendation is going to be. Mr. Ramos, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Mrs. Samaniego, Superintendent Samaniego. Before I make a decision on this, can you go more into depth what you feel our parents want, and how many of the people here in the community feel that it's time for us to go into either a hybrid learning?
And, let me see. Okay. Mr. Ramos, as far as parents are concerned, I've heard from very few parents about wanting to open up the schools. I think, like I said, for the most part, and we didn't do a parent survey this time. I looked at the data we had going into quarter three, and overwhelmingly then the parents were asking to just remain online. And as always, I wanted to ensure to our parents that that option would still be there if we were able to continue during an in-person instruction. So the parents now, I haven't really heard from many. I'm not getting calls. I'm not getting emails saying you need to open up and you need to open up. And so I think, and this is what, just from what I have and the conversations I have, parents are probably most of the parents are going to keep their kids at home.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other board member comments? Mr. Lindeman.
Yeah, can I be heard? Okay. I really want to see the students back in school, and I was hoping that third or fourth quarter we would be able to do that. What I want to know though is, with the big federal push now, are we going to get any of the vaccines down here so we can get at least that peace of mind going? I know some people in Douglas have gotten their vaccines. The healthcare workers and things like that. Is there any way that we can press upon the county or something to get us in line a little bit quicker?
Mr. Lindeman, believe me, I have tried, and initially when the information about vaccines and that districts needed to register, that was the message, right? Register your district, and we're going to contact the superintendent, and we're going to set you up. That unfortunately didn't happen, and there is no indication that that is going to happen, where they're going to call us and say, okay, DUSD, you're going to go on this day. And believe me, the process is very frustrating for all of our employees who are constantly trying to get an appointment. And the county just today kind of changed their website, the county health website, to make it a little bit more accessible, because they've heard all of the superintendents, all of the people, because this is not only about education, right? Staff, it's about everybody trying to get a vaccine. And so they've changed the website a little bit to make it more accessible, so that you wouldn't have to click on every little thing every time you log in. I have asked, I've contacted, I'm in a meeting every Tuesday with our county health department and our county superintendents. And we've all asked, is there a way that either Chiricahua can organize something with the county health department and do a DUSD or a Douglas educator event? And at this point, that's not the intention, or that's not the direction they're going in. They are given a certain amount of vaccines, they're dispersed to all the entities, and then they open up slots. And it is literally like getting into a lotto. It's very stressful. I wish I had a better response, but they get it from the state, then the counties are pretty much distributing on their own, and everybody pretty much is on their own to get the vaccine. And so if I would know that right now, Mrs. Cox said that 80% or so of our teachers are planning to, or our staff are planning to get the vaccine. Well, that's a pretty good number. I'm comfortable with that. We just don't know how soon that's going to take for all of that 80% to take their vaccines as appointments are coming up.
Well,
Is that go ahead, Mr. Lindman.
I'm thinking that that's going to be a major key to us, making any kind of a informed decision as to what's going to happen for the rest of the year. I think we've done a good job so far. I know there's a lot of difficulties back and forth, but without that vaccine, we're just in the same boat continuously. Thank you.
Ms. Salchow, do you have any questions or comments?
Actually, I do. With the hybrid, you're going to the hybrid, and we're looking at students being on campus 2 days a week for more direct instruction. Do we see it being enough on it? That's my question. Is one of the things that we keep hearing teachers and we keep hearing, especially from parents, is that they're just not feeling they're getting that traditional learning experience from the classroom teachers because of time allotted due to being online. So do you feel strongly our teachers are prepared and ready to make up that lost time?
Okay, so I think there's two questions there. The first question, do I believe that if we were to start hybrid, 2 days of face-to-face instruction is going to be enough? No, I don't. Okay. And I have evidence from my own colleagues around Cochise County that tried it, that have been on hybrid since the start of the year. And most of them that were able to, they went back to in that traditional setting with the option of keeping online, because what they found is that hybrid got too complicated. What hybrid does is you go to school Monday if you're an A student, for example. It's just one example. You go to school Monday with your teacher. You stay home Tuesday to do online work from your teacher. It's not virtual teaching because she has a different group on Tuesday in person. Then you have that Wednesday, which is we planned that as our distance learning day. Give or take, we stayed online or we went to hybrid. So that's additional day of assignments that are going to be done on your own. Then you go to school on Thursday again. So you see your teacher Monday, then you see your teacher on Thursday. So 2 days of in-person and 3 days of online. And the only reason the hybrid model came about nationwide was to allow for smaller class sizes. And that was the only way we could reduce the number of kids every teacher would have by staggering them. Some schools did in the morning, some schools did, A in the morning, B in the afternoon. Then comes into play the instructional minutes requirement by grade level. So while maybe kinder through second can have less instructional minutes, middle school can't. Middle school has to have so the morning and the AM and PM didn't necessarily work for all levels. So that's question number one, part one. The other thing, if I'm correct, do teachers feel that if we are allowed to start hybrid, will they be able to, in that 1 quarter, deal with the loss of learning?
Right.
And I don't think so.
Okay.
It's 1 quarter. It is 9 weeks of school, 2 days of face-to-face, 3 days of virtual teaching. So kids will still go back and forth between the online component to the in-person. So the loss of learning, the loss of academics and the gains that kids had, it's going to take some time, and it's not going to happen in 1 quarter, unfortunately.
And I do have one comment. I really appreciate everything that you put into for this report and for this consideration. And I do know that the administrators are looking at very strict guidelines for students wearing masks. and keeping those masks on, because I do understand that in especially our high schools around the United States where they have returned to school or they are going to school on hybrid, that has become a big issue, is keeping the mask on and keeping the spread down.
Yes.
So those are my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Salcho. Dr. Gomez, do you have anything?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't have anything? Dr.
No,
Gomez
sir.
doesn't have any questions or
No,
comments?
sir.
Okay, then, to sum it up, Ms. Samaniego, what is the outlook now then, as far as what we're going to be doing so that all the parents and especially the students and the community knows where are we now as of tonight? And what is the situation with the status of attendance? In other words, are we going to continue the way we are? Because since we posted the agenda, and it specifically says discussion action on distance learning for the remainder of the year, it was indicated as remainder of the year. So then people are anxious to know what is the action going to be for the remainder of the year. So you want to just state that so that.
So based on the information gathered, the staff input, the concern, the new variant of this virus that may be coming to Arizona soon, and the fact that maybe all of our staff won't be vaccinated by March, I think we need to stay online for the rest of the year.
You think, or that's your administrative decision?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so for the record, then for all intents and purposes, so that there's no ambiguity, the district is going to remain online until the end of the year, correct? And there won't. What about other activities, ancillary activities that would be affected by that?
Well, at the school levels, they've done a lot of things virtually, and they will probably continue to do things like ceremonies or parent conferences and things like that. The one area, as you all know, is that is impacted by this is the high school with athletics. And athletics was frozen, or a winter season was canceled, with the hope that Douglas High School would be allowed to have their spring sports. If you recall last year, spring sports was the sport that got completely canceled due to the governor's shutdown. So spring sports last year did not happen. And all the other seasons did, because they weren't impacted by COVID. This year, fall sports was impacted for some time. They did have an opportunity to start, but we had to close down early. Then winter pretty much didn't happen, and now we're looking at the possibility of spring sports. And as I mentioned to you before, I meet with the admin constantly. We haven't discussed athletics in the last few weeks, but you all gave me direction to work with the administration to see if even that was a possibility, and that would be the only area that would I say. We did have online school, and we still allowed those kids to play in the fall. So I would like that opportunity, at least for discussion with the admin team, to see where we're at with allowing or not allowing spring sports to start. Being that they lost the whole season last year, and we have softball, baseball, and which other one? Which other one? Baseball. Track. Okay. And so these, for the most part, are the three teams or the three sports that have less of one-to-one contact with each other, like football and basketball and soccer. So I'd like to have that discussion with the admin.
But, my quick comment is, in reaction to that, is that if all of the statements that you made earlier regarding the COVID and the new strains and all those things that are out, you're still considering allowing spring sports. It seems to me, and this is what this is normally what I get asked the most, is why would you even consider sports when academics is the primary purpose of being in the system, and then you allow we're not doing what people feel we're doing the utmost for academics, and then but yet we're having a loophole for sports, and that's the only thing I want to comment regarding that. And I know that's going to be your decision unless it comes back to the board in some way, but I would strongly consider, in light of everything you said about the academics, that we don't, paint that other situation with a different brush. Does anybody have any? Go ahead, Ms. Samaniego.
No, and I definitely agree with you. I mean, if we can't have kids in school, and I'm a proponent of having kids in school, I'm also very cautious about, that's why I've made the decision that I've made about canceling and all of that. So I hear you loud and clear. I will be just having that discussion with the admin, because I feel we need to have that discussion, and they're very well aware that this situation is not something we can control. And we have an obligation, first and foremost, to protect students. And if it's no sports, it's no sports.
Okay, we don't envy your position on any of this. Okay, members of the board, is there anything else on that subject? All right, we'll move to 3B, discussion action on the extension of COVID-19 sick leave. Ms. Samaniego.
Excuse me, Ms. Samaniego. Mr. Bahrain, I'm going to mute you each time Ms. Samaniego talks because we have an echo.
I have an echo?
Yes. So each time that someone else is talking, I'm going to mute you, okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
As presented, as you all know, federal regulation or federal law provided some COVID sick time for employees, and that allowed for up to 10 days of paid time off for different reasons. That law expired December 31st. Congress did not renew it. And therefore, as of January the 1st, there is no COVID pay leave. What school districts across Arizona, and I'm sure across the nation, did to assist employees was allow that as an extension of the federal law with some limitations. So I'm bringing to you today, and for my recommendation is to approve the extension of COVID leave pay for our employees. And the way it would work is if an employee already used up the 10 days up to December 31st, they wouldn't qualify again. If an employee only used 2 days, they would have 8 days remaining. The employee would have to demonstrate by proving or bringing in some documentation that they have a positive COVID test result, and that they will need to be out for an X number of days. This would not apply to employees having to take care of, a sibling, a son or daughter, or a husband, or a mom and dad. It has to be the employee. This extension would only last through March 31st, and we believe this will assist some of our employees who didn't experience any COVID prior to the law expiring.
I think that's a good avenue to pursue, especially if it's a benefit that is going to be presented and afforded to our staff. So, members of the board, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Excuse me, sir. Mr. Denham, I have a question.
I'm going to make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve the extension of COVID-19 sick leave.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ramos. You're muted, Mr. Bahrain.
Any discussion? You keep muting me, Alma. I think, I don't know. I'm not doing it. I don't know what I'm doing here. Anyway, roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 3C, discussion action on the approval of classified hire. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, it is just, this is one instructional aid under 21st century program.
No,
No, that's D.
I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Sorry. As presented, this is replacing our bookstore manager that retired, and we are recommending Audrey Robles.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Brain, I move to approve the classified hire.
Motion by Mr. Lindemann. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. With Ms. Salchow? Okay. good.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll let her do a second.
Listen, some of the images I'm looking at are frozen, so I can't tell if they're speaking or not. Was the second was by Ramos or Salchow?
Ms. Salcha,
Okay, great. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Item 3D, discussion, yes. Item 3D, discussion action on the approval of temporary classified hire. Now, Ms. Samaniego.
As presented.
Entertain a motion to approve
Mr. Brain, I move to approve the temporary classified hire.
by Mr. Lindemann. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 3E, discussion action on the approval of athletic hire for school year 2021-22. That's for next year. Ms. Samaniego.
Yes, as presented, and Luis Canes would be replacing Mr. Salchow, who just finally retired.
I move we
Entertain a
accept.
motion to approve
I
Jana.
move.
Ms. Salcha,
by Ms. Salchow. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ramos,
Second by Mr. Ramos. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 3F, discussion action on the approval of certified retirement. Ms. Samaniego.
Yes, as presented, Richard Ross submitting his retirement letter for end of the 22 school year, 21-22 school year.
Entertain a motion to approve
I move to approve.
by Mr. Lindemann. Is there a second?
I second.
By Ms. Salchow. Thank you. Any discussion? I think we should note with regrets on Mr. Ross. He's been a great asset to the district in many
Yes.
ways. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 3G, discussion action on the approval of athletic resignations. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, these are two athletic assistant coaches.
Entertain a motion to approve
I move to approve.
by Mr. Lindemann. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Discussion. Again, we have another longtime employee there, Carlos Chavez. It's always sad to see those old timers go, and I reluctantly say old timers because I hired them, so I'm impugning myself when I say that. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcho,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes, item 3H, discussion action on the approval of classified resignations and retirements. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, these are 4 of our instructional aides.
Entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Lindeman,
Yeah, I move to approve.
second
I second.
by Ms. Salchow. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcho,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 3I, discussion action on the approval of increase in hours. Ms. Samaniego or Ms. Cox, either one.
Go ahead, Denise.
Okay, so Ms. Clara Salayandia is replacing an ESSIA that that resigned previously. And so it's just an increase of hours due to the need.
Funding,
M&O.
okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve, Mr. President.
By Mr. Lindeman, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcho,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 3J, discussion action on the approval of volunteers. Ms. Cox or Ms. Samaniego?
Go ahead, Denise.
Okay. These are also, they're replacing people who have resigned. And so because we're not filling other positions, we're moving from positions that were vacant.
Denise, that was Jay. These are the teacher volunteers.
About the volunteers.
Observation.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Jay, these are from our Pathways program. They're students from the U of A who will be doing their student observations and then leading into student teaching.
That's is that part of your ongoing program, Ms. Samaniego, to kind of foment and get people involved in the district so that we have a ready available pool?
Yes, this is from the growth program.
Very good. All right, entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Mr. Lindeman, is there a second?
I second.
Was that Ms. Salchow?
Yes.
Thank.
Ms. Salcho,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item K, discussion information only for classified internal transfers. Ms. Samaniego or Ms. Cox, either one.
As presented, and these are two IAs that are site. Position.
Entertain a motion to approve.
It's just for information only.
Oh, that's information only. Thank you. That's right. You need that for the record. Thank you for that. Item L, discussion action on the approval of donations received for the district. Ms. Samaniego.
Yes, this is a donation of 145 goodie bags with school supplies that are being donated to the ESS department by Ms. Donna Seville.
Okay, very good. Mr. Lindeman, can I get a motion?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
By Ms. Salchow. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcho,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 3M, discussion action on the approval of the following job description. Administrative assistant, Mr. Soto, or who's going to do that, Ms. Samaniego?
I'll have Mr. Soto. He's the one that submitted it.
Okay. It's just a revision on the existing administrative assistant job description that we already have. We added some responsibilities that mainly have to deal with travel and some other duties in the business office. And that's about it.
Okay, it's an existing position, no increase in pay.
Correct.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
By Mr. Lindeman. Second?
Second.
Is that Ramos or Dr. Gomez?
Mr. Ramos.
Ramos.
Mr. Ramos? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Ms. Salchow?
Yes.
Lindemann?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item 3N, discussion report on food service department. Ms. Samaniego, who was going to do that, you or Mr. Soto or both?
I will start the conversation and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Soto.
And then Mr. Pineda is available as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
As I informed you during the January board meeting about the financial status of our food service department, I made an extensive report to you, and I informed you at that time that I would be coming back in February with a recommendation for the remainder of the year dealing with potentially having to cut down, terminate some positions, reduce some number of hours of our employees, so that we could be financially responsible and allow and finish off the school year with food service staff. And so in my report, I mentioned quite a bit, but I will turn it over to Cesar right now.
Thank you, Ms. Samaniego. Yeah, like Ms. Samaniego was saying, she did some kind of report on the previous board meeting where she made you guys aware of the financial situation at the food service department. Historically, that department has always been self-sufficient, and until now. And of course, it's not their fault. It's the fact of the pandemic, and it's the fact that we haven't been able to provide as many meals as we typically do on a normal day, school day. And the way that works is that we report to the state the number of meals we provide on a daily basis, and then we get reimbursed at a rate depending if it's a breakfast or lunch. Again, the department was forced to shut down for at least almost a whole month when issues came out at the district, at the different sites. But as if you remember correctly, the goal of this board, it was for everybody to continue getting paid during those closures. And again, what caused all of this was the fact that we weren't able to provide any meals during those 4 weeks. And so there was expenditures, but there was no revenue coming in. Right now, as of right now, which is January 15, I believe, 14-15, there was a shortfall of almost $129,000 of that department because of the lack of revenue coming in. Again, it's not the fault of anybody. It's just the fact that we were not able to provide those meals, so there was no revenue coming in. And this is a federal program, like a grant. Since then, the department, Mr. Pineda and Mr. Valdez, the supervisor, have been proposed different strategies to improve the number of meal served on a daily basis. We kept all of the sites open at the schools to provide meals. Now we have buses and vans going around to the different parts of town delivering meals, or just parking and then just having people come on and get their meals. That has worked as of right now, but but it's still not the same as providing almost 2,500 meals a day. So we have to do something about it, like Mrs. Samaniego said, to be fiscally responsible, and the fact that this is a federal grant. So we're doing what we can, implementing new ideas. This happened back in November, and then we implemented these new strategies, which we're not going to see any results until, remember that we're behind like a month or sometimes month and a half to actually see and receive the revenues from the state. So this happened like late November, and then we have the break, of course. So the month of December is always historically low because we don't have that many claims, that many meals to provide. But just to give you an idea of revenues that we get for the months of August and September, also remember that we started school late. We started in August 17, but we typically started at the beginning of August. So there was 2 weeks lost in meals provided. So we got a revenue of $128,000 for August and September. Then we have a revenue for October of $124,000. Then it dropped dramatically in November, and that's when the pandemic hit us really bad, and we have to shut down all of those sites that provide those meals. So November and December, there's only $60,000 each month. And of course, by adding then these new strategies, we saw a peak in revenues that we're thinking they're going to happen. Again, we're not going to know for sure until probably middle of this month for the activity that happened in January. But the number of meals increase, so that's a plus for us. But again, that's not going to solve the problem we have right now, and it's not going to help us out to cover that deficit until at the end of the school year. So what the department is proposing, and of course, along with reduction in hours and cutting some positions that at this point they're not needed to operate the department. Along with all of those proposals, then the expenditures, of course, are being very cautiously reviewed before actually having those expenditures. It's again, you have in your package the recommendation from the department. At this point, with these proposed changes and cutting people and cutting of hours, I'm projecting at this point, not knowing what the activity of the number of meals provided are going to be in the next couple months with this new strategy, that is probably going to be still a shortfall of $50 to $55, between $50 and $50,000 that we will have to cover from somewhere. Again, this is a federally funded program, and at this point, I'm still looking around and trying to find the right place where to get these funds to cover. What I'm hoping that will happen is that if we continue seeing this increase in meals provided every day, that shortfall is going to be reduced. So it's not going to be as bad. But again, I'm obviously going to keep you updated every month, or probably Mrs. Samaniego when she emails you with the weekly reports, then we can keep you updated on the number of meals that we're providing and what the projection is going to be for next year. So with that, I don't know if you have any questions for me or Mr. Pineda, if you want more in detail answers from the department.
Let me ask the first question before I open it up to the board. With the action and the remedial procedures that you're taking now, is the shortfall going to be compounded by your trying to maintain the present staff that you're going to have, the staff you'll have after the termination of the 5 that you're recommending? It's not going to be compounded, the loss, is it? I mean, did you look at those numbers and extrapolate it to know that whatever you've got serving now is going to be able to cover the expenses of, even with the reduction of hours?
Correct. The cuts that are being proposed with the number of hours also is to keep the department operating the same way they're operating right now. assuming that we're going to have the same number of meals provided as we have right now, not the ones we had in December or November. So the department will have enough manpower to keep running the department, yes.
And then just quickly, how did you determine which 5 people would be terminated?
It was mainly about the number of hours they work. So we have personnel in the department that works 3 hours, some 3.5, some 4 hours, some 4.5, some 5, some 7, some 8. So there's a lot of different schedules that they have. And what Mr. Pineda determined is that it will be a lot easier just to not have those 3.5 hours employees anymore, and then just work with the rest of them. There's no seniority, there's no longevity in determined. Also keep in mind that this is a reduction in force, which that means is that that if we decide in August to go traditional or to go hybrid, and if the need of more personnel comes, then those people will have priority on being hired back.
Just so that the board knows and that our staff knows, legally, how is this realized? In other words, what was the legal procedure that you took to do this so that everybody understands why the board is going through termination rather than reduction in force? And we're dealing with what they call at-will employees. And I think it's important that the board understand that. How are you able to realize this action?
If I
Ms.
may,
Samaniego? Yeah,
yes.
go ahead, Ms. Samaniego.
And I'll answer this. Obviously, we worked with our attorney, and under GDQA, it's specifically stated in that policy that at any time an at-will, employee may be terminated due by action of the governing board for any reason, for no reason, with or without advance notice, as the governing board desires. Obviously, if the superintendent recommends that to the governing board, termination and an at-will, the recommendation shall be submitted to the governing board, which is what we're doing right now. So it is within policy, and obviously, due to the fact that we are doing this because that is our obligation to make sure we operate fiscally responsible. And it was reviewed by the attorney. It is followed and guided by policy.
But the other thing too, and I think it's of utmost important, you're terminating all of them. You're terminating everybody, all the cafeteria workers, so that this is clear to everybody. And then by doing so, you're exercising the at-will employment agreement with the employee. But then later the board is going to hire back at a lesser hourly rate, right? Not an hourly rate, but at less hours. Less hours. And they become employees again, just so that's not complicated, so that we understand, the board understands, and so that the general public, and above all, our staff understands how we went through this, so that they'll know the process in the event there's questions later as to how could the board do that, why did they pick them, and so on. I think openness and information is of utmost importance. All right, members of the board, let me start at the top of the Mr. Lindeman, do you have any questions or comments regarding this?
No, Mr. President, no comments or questions. It's self-evident.
I can't hear anyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ms. Salcha. Mr. Brain is
Okay.
muted.
I have no questions or comments. I feel that this information has been sufficient.
Mr. Brain,
Thank you. Mr. Ramos, do you have any questions or comments regarding this action or
No.
the protocol?
No, I feel comfortable with what I was just told on here by Mr. Soto and Mrs. Samaniego. I feel comfortable with their decision.
All right, Dr. Gomez, do you have any questions or comments regarding the protocol or the why?
Protocol, my question and petition would be, are we doing enough to advertise that these meals are available? Because I have gotten comments of people that said, we didn't know that we're still giving out meals. And so, and this one person said, I started to contact my my friends to tell them that, yes, they were giving out meals. Now, I did see the bus the other day traveling around with a sign, and then it would stop or go into an apartment complex, which I think is great. So my thing is, let's try to do as much advertising as possible.
And to Mr. Pineda, do you want to answer that question since you've done several things for outreach?
Yes, good evening. To answer your question, Dr. Gomez, I think we have done enough to advertise. I mean, there's always like new ideas. I'm open to that, but we have communicated through via Facebook, which is one of the most popular methods to advertise and marketing right now. We also have the big banners on the buses. We go around, like you said. I mean, that's a big visual advertisement for the people, so they can attract to go get the service. Also, we have had some support on the radio. Some people are advertising on the local radio. We put flyers around the apartment complexes where we know that there's more population. So we have done all those ideas. I know we can always do a little bit more. So I'm open to ideas, but I think we have done enough to advertise at this time.
And we've also done the phone notifications. Parents will get text messages informing them too. And all of our websites, schools are posting outside of their little messages outside. So I wasn't sure. Are the banners? Did we order those banners already?
Yes.
Did we or not?
The ones are on the buses. We order them. Yes, they're ready and they're visible for the public right now.
Okay,
yes.
All right.
How about schools?
Can you repeat?
Okay, is there any other discussion on that? Before we get off of that and we get into the actual action of accomplishing what we need to do.
Mr. Bahrain.
Yes.
Dr. Ed had another comment.
Oh, okay. I can't hear Dr. Ed and I don't see him moving at all. I can see his image, but go ahead as long as you guys can. Great, go ahead.
But you're also putting up banners at the schools?
Oh, if we're also putting banners at the schools. You know what? That wouldn't be a bad idea. That is something that we haven't done. We have the marquees. Schools that have a working marquee, and I know some schools, their marquees are outdated and those are very expensive to fix, but we will discuss that option and maybe order some banners for schools.
Okay, Dr. Ed?
Yes.
All right. Before we get off of that and we move into the next, I just wanted to comment that the board and the district is very, very sorry and apologetic that we had to take this action or that we're going to have to take it on the next two items. But we want all our employees to know that we would never do anything this drastic unless the circumstances dictated or warranted it. And in this case, I think it's obvious that we can't continue in that one department going the way we are. This is certainly not a signal to anybody else because we're trying to do the best we can to stay solvent. And as the revenues come in, and in a few minutes, we're going to talk to Mr. Soto about salaries for next year. I'm going to ask him a question regarding that with the budget. And just want everybody to know that it's a very regretful action that this board had to take regarding that. And that we'll do the best we can. I know the administration has already spoken to the staff that we'll do the best we can to get them back as soon as possible when times get better. And Mr. Pineda, you'll be monitoring that, and you certainly will be notifying the central office when things are looking a little bit brighter, right? Okay. All right. So with that, we'll move on to item O, discussion action to approve the termination of support staff in the food service department under policy GDBQA, support staff reduction in force due to budgetary constraints. And I'll entertain a motion to do that.
Mr. President, I move to approve item O.
Is there a second?
Dr. Gomez, second.
Dr. Gomez seconded it? Good. Thank you. All right. Any discussion? I think we've thoroughly covered it actually in the previous, unless there's any further discussion or further questions that may have come up from that time to now. If not, we'll have roll call. No
Mr.
discussion?
Gomez?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item P, discussion action to approve the termination of wage notices for food service employees due to budgetary constraints. And that's what we talked about a minute ago, that we're actually terminating all of them. And then in the next item, we're going to hire back the ones that are listed. However, with a new pay rate. Correct, Mr. Soto?
Correct.
All right. All right. So we need a roll call on that one, Adma, or are we on that?
We need a
Okay.
motion, right?
All right.
And
So
it's, I'm sorry, but it's, letter Q is hours, not a pay rate.
Yes. Reduction of hours, not pay rate. Yes, correct.
Right now, it's action item P.
It's
Yes.
P.
Yes.
So I need a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve item P.
is there any, a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay,
It was
thank
Dr.
you.
Gomez.
Right. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item Q, discussion action to approve the issuance of wage notices for food services with reduced hours due to budgetary constraints. And I would say that rather than to read them all, Ms. Samaniego, then we just say as presented, and they're listed for public consumption and the record. And they've already been notified, right, Ms. Samaniego? They all know who's coming back and what their wage is going to be, correct? All right.
That's correct.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve, and then we'll have discussion on that.
Mr. President, I move to approve item Q as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Gomez.
Okay, Dr. Gomez, thank you. All right. Any further discussion regarding that action that we're about to take, board members?
Dr. Gomez has a
Mr.
question.
Lindemann?
No.
No comments, no questions?
No
Roll
comment.
call.
For later.
Roll call.
Mr. Ramos,
Yes.
Ms. Salcha,
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez, Mr. Bahrain.
Yes. Item 4, discussion items, request for future agenda items. Any board members? Item 4, announcements. Ms. Samaniego. Ms. Samaniego, announcements.
Yes, just want to remind our parents that we have teacher conferences taking place this week. Some of them have already taken place, but officially February the 3rd. And those are virtually parent conferences. President's Day is also on February the 15th, and that is a no school, and all district offices and schools are closed. And next regular board meeting is on March the 2nd.
All right, thank you for that. All right, board members, I want to thank you. We struggled through another one, but I think we got the business accomplished. And Alma, thanks again for bearing with all of us here and trying to coordinate all these things. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Dr. Gomez, I think had a question.
Pardon me?
I believe Dr. Gomez had a question.
On action item 3A, what was our decision? What was the action of the district attorney for the remainder of the year?
To stay online, Dr. Ed, to finish off the school year as distance learning.
Did we have a vote?
No, we didn't have a vote on it because we asked the recommendation of the, nothing changed because the recommendation of Ana Samaniego was to continue going the way we were. And however, had she wanted to do something different, then then we did have it posted that we could take action. But since the recommendation is just to continue online the way we are, we didn't feel it necessary for a vote.
Yeah, but say that.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
I move to adjourn.
Mr. Bahrain,
Yes.
Dr. Gomez still has a comment.
Oh, go ahead. As I say, I can't hear Dr. Gomez, to be honest with you. So go ahead, Dr. Gomez, if he can hear me.
Time?
We can't hear you, Dr. Gomez.
Didn't Anna say that she needed the time if we were to go in the last quarter on some type of a hybrid or maybe who's going in?
Yes, that was part of what I said, and I said based on all the information that I gathered and knowing what we know, it would be my recommendation to continue staying online through the end of this school year.
Okay, well, I just want to say that I am not in agreement with that recommendation, okay?
Okay.
I think the doctor would have made that comment during that item. However, I don't know if he had a harder time as I did knowing who was speaking and who wasn't, but so that will go on as part of the record as the comment on that item. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. We have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Mr. Lindemann.
Yes.
And was there a second, Alma?
Second.
Mr. Ramos.
All right, by Mr. Ramos. All right. We're finally going to get this thing over with. Thanks, Alma, for all your patience. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.